All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Going to be getting into week 16 here for you guys. It's a pretty interesting slate. We're getting a lot of quarterback value. We're getting some interesting running back spots, probably trying to pay up, but we're getting some decent value as well. Tight end wise, we are getting some pretty extreme value. I think it's going to be a slate where we are dipping down to some sub 3K tight end plays. And we're getting a lot of pretty solid receiver plays just across all pricing ranges. To me, that's going to be the most difficult part about this slate is kind of being on the correct receivers because there's plenty of good receiver plays on this slate. But first, guys, we are going to get into a quick recap from last week. Another good week. Let's go and get into it. So as most of you guys know, I was just taking the price discount with Marcus Mariota. Felt like a very safe and comfortable 3X play. He ended up getting that for us. Really proud of the stacks that we had out there. So Dart, Robinson, and Johnson ended up being a pretty solid stack overall. Mariota and McLaurin, that one ended up working out. Purdy, Kittle, and Pearsall. Well, it kind of was annoying because Juwan Jennings ended up getting 2 touchdowns again, but Pearsall did have a good day, and Kittle did end up having a pretty good day as well. The simple, easy stack, Stafford, Puka, and Parkinson. Chase and Burrow. Burrow was terrible. That was a miss for sure. He even admitted it. He was pretty bad. And not the best there with Flowers and Jackson. Probably should have been on Goff with ASB and also Jameson Williams there, but oh well, you guys know the whole purpose of the content I put out is to really condense everything, heavily curated for you guys. So it's as straightforward as possible. That's really what we're going for there. One tough part about the slate, guys, was really what happened to our top 2 running backs, which were Woody Marks and Devin Neal, who both got to 10 DFS points. Both ended up getting injured. And what was even more tilting was reading the blurb about Woody Marks after the game. He could have come back into the game if we needed him. Yay! Because guess what? His backup ended up going off. He had a pretty impressive run, actually, which was a bulk of his yardage. But, I mean, he was impressive. But he had 100 rush yards, so that was pretty tilting. And then in regards to the Saints as well, Devin Neal was a great leverage spot for us. Audric Estime ended up getting 8 DFS points. Evan Hall, who was another backup that got some work. We'll touch on those two. He got a little bit of work as well, so very tilting there. Probably could have had 20 DFS points from those 2 running backs, but still ended up working out, mostly well. The whole point, again, to those 2 running backs specifically was so that we could pay up for the stud receivers on the slate. Ended up getting to Bill instead of Rodriguez that called out on the Discord. This was kind of the sample build that I called out that we could use with the 3 stud receivers. We knew the slate, guys, that was going to be Puka, Jason, and Chase. We just want to jam them in. Happy to get the Gunnar Helm TD. That was nice. Jalen Coker TD. That really helped out a lot. But it was a pretty straightforward slate receiver rise. Really, the only miss was Mitchell Tinsley, who dropped a touchdown, and Jaden Higgins, who did not do all that much. But other than that, pretty good stuff there. Tight end wise, mostly good here, guys. Really liked Harold Fannin. Really liked George Kittle, Gunnar Helm. Kincaid, he got Dawson Knox again. So Dawson Knox had 2 touchdowns. Both the Johnson tight ends were they're fine. They didn't really break the slate. Colby Parkinson did end up kind of breaking the slate, 2 touchdowns for him. So overall, just a solid slate. And hopefully we can do that again for you guys this week. So let's start off with the running backs because it does feel like a very top-heavy running back slate. So we're going to be looking at Devon Achane most likely, but we're also going to be looking at Bijan Robinson. Now, Devon Achane is playing Monday night. I'm recording this video before that game. Hopefully, we're all good to go there. But I think we're pretty comfortable really getting to Bijan and Devon Achane as the 2 top running back plays that we want to pay up for. Good match with them. Not too worried about their workload at all. Now, after that, Gibbs could obviously go off. James Cook could obviously go off. Travis Etienne's coming in off of a pretty good game. Chase Brown gets a decent matchup. Bucky Irving, you would expect him to get a little bit more work. Decent matchup for him. The tough part is, what do we do with Woody Marks? If he's going to be active, you did have Jordan look pretty good in that game. Are we going to see a little bit more of a split backfield? Also, Nick Chubb, he's someone that's banged up. Are we going to see a 3-headed monster? We don't really know that just yet. That's a guessing game. RJ Harvey actually played a decent amount of snaps, guys, getting 69% of the snaps. For most of the game, not too good. He had 1 decent drive where he was able to score a touchdown. Other than that, not too good there. That was kind of after a deflating Christian Watson injury, which ultimately was the difference in the game. Patrick Surtain made a freaking amazing play defensively in which Christian Watson trying to go for it kind of fell on his shoulder. But yeah, just the momentum was out of there for the Packers. And then you had RJ Harvey able to punch in a touchdown. He does feel a little bit touchdown dependent, not the best matchup, but he is cheap. Junkins, as we kind of thought, got bottled up in that game. I don't know how much we're going to be looking at him. The easy click, I would say, is going to be Tyrone Tracy. And I say easy with a slight asterisk. Okay, he did end up playing a lot of snaps, guys. Ended up playing 79% of the snaps. If we knew for sure he was going to play 70+% of the snaps, we would just be loading up on him, even in a tough matchup against Minnesota, just because of the price. Like, it's extremely cheap. Love to see him actually get some work in the passing game as well. 3 targets, was able to score a touchdown. We're not banking on a massive game like this. Although, shout out to Tracy. I overdrafted you in best ball drafts, but my goodness, you came through for me in best ball drafts in that game. That was crazy. But I do think just right now, as I'm recording this video, he is the player that we should be trying to get to value-wise at the running back position. That being said, we might be getting some other values as well, maybe as the week progresses. So let's talk about some of the other spots. So Audric Estime or Evan Hall. Okay, they both ended up playing about 30% of the work. Maybe that ends up just being a pure 50-50 split. I wouldn't mind getting to either of them. Estime is kind of priced up a little bit. Evan Hall, not so much. And so naturally, I just might try to get to Evan Hall more if that ends up being the case. Now, maybe Alvin Kamara is going to be back now that Devin Neal's a little bit banged up. We're just waiting on that news. Another spot where we are waiting on some news is going to be in regards to Arizona. Now, Michael Carter was forced into 80% of the snaps last week. I think that was mostly due to Bam Knight getting injured and Emari Demercado not being fully healthy, but just healthy enough to play. So I would expect it to be much more of a 50-50 split. That being said, guys, based off of the news that we get, if Bam Knight is out and maybe Demercado still on the injury report, then I think we could be looking at Michael Carter to at least get 60% of the work, and he still would be somewhat interesting at 5.4. If signs are pointing to him maybe getting that workhorse workload of around 80% of the snaps, then yeah, we definitely want to be looking at him. I mean, Jacoby Brissett, the fact that Brissett was able to score 20 DFS points against Houston, I mean, that does enough for all the other passing weapons in this offense, and maybe they get back Marvin Harrison Jr., which would open up the offense a little bit more. I mean, Michael Carter becomes a pretty appealing play then. And then I did want to just talk about Kamani Vidal and Hampton, guys. So Vidal ended up playing 63% of the snaps, whereas Hampton played 37%. Really, I mean, a little bit of a shock that he played that much more, but still not a shock that he's out snapping Hampton. That's basically how I've been hearing everything that the head coach and just coaching staff has been saying. Not really a spot that I think we need to get to, but worth calling out. It is a good matchup against Dallas. Maybe Vidal is a little bit interesting at a cheaper price tag than really what he should be at. So maybe something we're looking at for GPPs. So now let's go ahead and jump on into the receivers. Obviously, St. Brown is going to get a phenomenal matchup here, guys. We are probably looking at him 18 targets in that last game against the Rams. Obviously, that game ended up being a shootout. I don't mind the spot here for him. I think if we can pay up for him, we should. Nico Collins is going to be an interesting spot against the Raiders. Rice, we'll see what happens. Gardner Minshew, obviously it's a decrease in overall like points to be scored, but I think his role is somewhat going to stay the same. Maybe even gets like, I don't want to say a few more targets, but I don't think his role is going to change all that much. And it's not a terrible matchup there against the Titans. So I do think he's someone we're going to be looking at. Michael Wilson, we'll see if Marvin Harrison Jr. is back. He's someone that's interesting. But really what I think we want to be looking at is going to be in regards to the Chargers. The Chargers get a phenomenal matchup against the Dallas Cowboys. We just saw J.J. McCarthy light up the Dallas Cowboys defense, and that's saying something. Now, I was all over J.J. McCarthy for that Sunday night showdown. I was really shocked at actually his ownership. I'm like, it's Dallas. You just plug in quarterbacks against Dallas and don't even think about it. If Quentin Johnson is going to be out, I expect Justin Herbert to have a good game. And if he does, Ladd McConkey is certainly someone we should be looking at. Now, you might argue that, all right, that is a good play. But also, if Quentin Johnson's out, we should be looking at Trey Harris. And I think that'd be a phenomenal argument as well because he is too cheap. Ended up getting 5 targets, guys. Harris ended up playing 88% of the snaps. He would certainly be one of the better values that we are getting on this slate. And I would say, I mean, he's not going to be an elite value like we had early on in the season where there's players vastly mispriced, but for the back end of the season, he might be one of the better values that we get for this back end of the season. So definitely someone I think we should be looking at there. Just worth calling out kind of an interesting snap share was Jacoby Myers, guys. Continue to play 92% of the snaps, even with Parker Washington back. So I don't think we're really going to play him against Denver. That defense was pretty darn good, as they always are. So I don't think we want to be looking at too many of the Denver players. Trevor Lawrence is coming on off of a great game. I don't expect him to play all that well against Denver's defense. Let's jump back into the Saints, guys. So Devon Valet ended up getting injured in that game. If he ends up being out, Mason Tipton is going to play probably 80 to 90% of the snaps. Not exactly getting a lot of targets, but you probably would see him get more targets. I mean, just look at the amount of work that Devon Valet had got in that game. He was the receiver number 1 in that game. 6 targets, 5 receptions, 69 receiving yards. You know, about 4 straight weeks of decent production out of him. And so if we could get that replacement production in Mason Tipton, obviously that'd be pretty appealing. So just be on the lookout for that news. And then a mid-tier play that I do really like is Courtland Sutton. Obviously the Denver Broncos receiver number 1. This was something I talked about coming in off of the bye week, where I thought he would kind of reinsert himself in that receiver number 1 role for the Denver Broncos. That is exactly what has happened. I see this as a pretty good matchup there going against the Jacksonville Jaguars. And although Bo Nix is kind of hit or miss, he's still going to target Courtland Sutton a bunch. And I actually do like getting to Bo Nix a decent amount on the slate. And so that actually makes sense in some stacks with Courtland Sutton. Now, if Pat Bryant's out, I do think we can look at Troy Franklin a little bit, but let's jump into those quarterbacks. And let's start out here with Bo Nix. So yeah, Bo Nix, guys, had a very interesting game. Could have been picked off like 5 times in that game. The Packers just flat out dropped some INTs and some relatively easy INTs as well. Ultimately, he ends up with 4 touchdowns, though, against the Packers defense, 302 passing yards. Now, that's not like to say he looked bad. I'm not trying to say that, but that was like the ultimate Bo Nix experience, where he can have several of just like terrible plays and then just have an awesome play. And it's just his scrambling ability to keep plays alive, obviously. But it's almost like the fact that he got away with, let's just say, some pretty terrible throws kind of makes me think we might get one of these games out of him, like the KC Raiders game. But again, with Courtland Sutton, I think that bye week was just really well timed for the Denver Broncos, where they probably were getting away with some games that maybe they shouldn't have won. And then they've been just looking really good since the bye week. Specifically, Bo Nix has looked better. And so in this matchup against the Jaguars, I think it does have a chance to end up being a shootout. And I do like the matchup. I do think we should be targeting that. That being said, we do have Justin Herbert at a very cheap price tag, and I just think he's going to be able to go off in this matchup against Dallas. It's pretty simple, guys. Play quarterbacks against Dallas. Herbert becomes much, much more appealing if Quentin Johnston's going to be active, though. That does open up a downfield threat that we do need. Now, from there, we are getting a lot of decent quarterback values as well, guys. We could also pay up for Jared Goff. I think he's fine. You got Bryce Young at a pretty good spot. Pretty good price tag. I like him. Aaron Rodgers, not terrible against Detroit. Then you also have JJ McCarthy, who, again, guys, over the last 2 weeks has been impressive. What's interesting about the Vikings as well, it's like I think Kevin O'Connell is trying to make JJ McCarthy a thing just based off of the red zone play calling. Like they're specifically like the goal line play calling. Like they're trying to give him touchdowns, which he's completing them. Had that rushing touchdown, like he's converting them. And I think that's just an advantage for us DFS wise that is occurring. And so I kind of think I'm just going to go back to JJ McCarthy, because I do think we're going to be able to get a solid safe 3X, because that's really what they're trying to do. They're trying to develop him. And so they're going to give him some opportunities to score those touchdowns once again. I mean, he should have had 4 touchdowns, guys. We had Justin Jefferson drop a pretty easy touchdown, and then CJ Ham went in and scored a 1-yard rushing touchdown. So interesting spot there. And then worth calling out, I don't hate the price tag of Gardner Minshew. You know, Mahomes has had plenty of big plays just by dumping the ball off to Rashee Rice. And so although it'll be more of a traditional style offense, we're not going to have, well, not as much so. I was going to say we're not going to have Mahomes, scrambling out and making these kind of spectacular plays. But I mean, that is Minshew. So maybe we will. Maybe we will see him rush the football a decent amount. I think I would rather still get to JJ McCarthy, although really not a terrible value here for Minshew as well. Like he probably should be 5.2 at least. Now for tight ends, guys, as it sits right now, I'm just going to be going with a couple of the really terribly priced tight ends that we're getting. So Darnell Washington, this is just an oversight. He has been the tight end number 1 for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't think he's going to have massive production, but on a slate where I do think we want to be paying up for 2 stud running backs, having a near min price starting tight end in the league that most likely won't give us a negative and that could score a touchdown is very appealing. That being said, guys, Greg Dulcich, who is playing on Monday night, maybe this will end up being a terrible call out. We'll see. But if he has a role where he's playing 50% of the snaps and about 55% of the routes again, he is clearly mispriced, and he gets a phenomenal matchup against the Bengals. Okay, and this is rooted in the fact that the announcing crew last week, for you guys, most of you guys watching this will be 2 weeks ago, he got a lot of call outs from the broadcasting crew. Basically, the coaching staff had really hyped up Greg Dulcich to the point where the broadcasting crew obviously were highlighting him based off of the coach speak. And so if he ends up playing even like 40% of the routes and 40% of the snaps, he would still be too mispriced given this matchup, because I do think we'll at least get like 4 DFS points. So I like getting to him. I like punting at tight end. Now, we could just go to Trey McBride, who's been a stud, even in a difficult matchup. You do have Kyle Pitts, who just went off. Okay, I get that. But if Drake London's still out, I mean, Kyle Pitts, obviously it was a shock what he did going off by that much. But had he just had 15 DFS points, like that's what we were expecting. We were expecting him to have a good game. And so he gets another good matchup. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to see him go for 20 if Drake London's out, because Kirk Cousins is just getting him the football. He's playing 90+% of the snap. So that's interesting. Gadsden becomes a better play if Johnston is out, guys, but not necessarily someone we need to go out of our way to target. And then from there, I mean, maybe we'll look at Waller instead of Greg Dulcich. I don't see the need to go to Gunnar Helm in this game because we are getting those other values. Although, shout out to Gunnar Helm. He was like less than a % owned in cash lineups. So I'm like, it's a little strange. That's a little strange there. I'll take it. I was happy for that, but worked out for us there. And as we can see, guys, it wasn't fluky. He's had one bad game over the past month now, right? And so that was strange. I think we could probably still look at him somewhat, but it is a more difficult matchup. And so let's go ahead and complete this build. DST-wise, I ended up punting to the Raiders last week because I thought they were the lowest priced DST that wouldn't go negative, and they didn't go negative. They got 0, but better than messing with some of those other defenses that don't outproduce their price tag and ownerships. And I think I want to do that again. I do think the Raiders, Jets will not go negative, but I also think the Tennessee Titans are a defense we can get to with obviously Patrick Mahomes out. I don't mind them. I don't really care though. Okay, like we can upgrade later on. Now, Jordan Addison, guys, is clearly a little bit too cheap, especially if we are playing JJ McCarthy. So we'll go with him. And then we do have 2.6 left over for defense. And we could get to, the Cards defense against Atlanta is not terrible. We'll go with the Titans for now. And so I think this actually ends up being a pretty solid first look build. So that's going to do it though for this video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the coverage. Hopefully you guys have had a great season. We'll look to continue that this week. Be on the lookout for the core plays video and all these showdown videos as well. Appreciate you guys being here. Leave a like on the way out, guys. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you guys for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.